Hi, I'm Jonah, and this is the first in a series of videos that are going to be going over how to pre-process EEG data using Brain Vision Analyzer. So throughout these videos, we're going to go over hopefully what you have here in this file on standard pre-processing steps from filtering all the way to averaging. But today we're just going to be, in this video at least, we're just going to be looking at how to get your data into the program and how to start moving yourself around in the program itself. So the first thing you need to do before even opening Brain Vision Analyzer is go to your files, and you're going to need to create a few different files that tell BVA what kind of workspace they're going to be dealing with, where your raw data is, and where all of the pre-processing steps that you apply to this data can be kept, so where they can be saved. So I've done this here. I've created 3 files. The first one is a raw file, which includes all of my raw data for my project. The second one is a history file, which right now is empty, just name it history. And the third one is export, also empty, just name it history. So once you have this, and I encourage you to name it your project, not BVA video, then you're going to open up the program. So hopefully you can get to this stage. So right now I had a file open before that it's trying to access. I'm going to cancel this. And hopefully it will just pop up for you like this with a big internet screen here that you can exit and an empty primary tree over here that you don't have to worry about. So the first thing we're going to do in order to get our data from the files into here is create a workspace. So we're going to go to File and New, and then we're going to have to choose where each of those files was. So our raw files were in this raw folder. History files, the empty one, is history, and export files are export. Awesome. So once you have all this, click OK, and it's going to, you're going to have to save it. Name it again as your project, and it's going to load all of your raw data into this primary tree here. Now, I only used 4 subjects for this video, so it's going to be fairly quick. If you have a lot more and a slower computer, it might take a little while longer. Awesome. So you can see I have my 4 subjects that I'm supposed to here over in this primary tree. If you don't see this tree, let's say it accidentally got exited, then one of the things you can do is go to Windows here and reset panel layout, or just look at primary tree. And this primary tree is going to have all your raw data, and all the pre-processing steps that you apply to this data are going to be viewed right here as another branch of the tree. So first, now that we have our data, we're going to check and make sure what we're looking at is what we actually want to be looking at. So for instance, I know that my data has 128, 29 channels and is around 23 minutes long. So we can check both of those things to understand what we're looking at here. So subject 14, we're in their raw data. I can see all the channels, all the electrodes here, numbered from 1 to 32. If I click one of these buttons, I can see more or less channels. So let's look at more and less. So somewhere in the middle right here is probably perfect. And I'm going to go down all these channels to see and make sure I have 129 of them. Awesome, perfect. There we are. So we know with pretty high confidence that this is what we're looking at. We have the channels coming vertically here. And if I move across here at the bottom, then we can see all of this data. You'll see that this data started right here at 10:32 and it finishes at around 10:55. So about 22 minutes, that's perfect. So this is in fact our data. Now, when we want to shift across from right to left in this data, we can use either of these 2 buttons. There's a coarse tune and a fine tune navigation. So I can click, click, click. This will move all across my data. I can look for messy, noisy channels, whatnot. And this is going to be an even finer tune. Awesome. So at the bottom here, you'll see each of these STM things. Yours will look different. Maybe they'll be numbered. These are the markers that either came up when your stimuli was presented during the experiment or when your participant made a response. So each of these will be numbered, like right there you can see response, the participant made a response, and each of these would be something that came up, whether it was a fixation bar or let's say a distractor or whatever your different experiment had. They'll all show up here. Hopefully you have numbers for those so that you know what you're looking at. Next thing, any step that we're going to be any pre-processing step we're going to be applying to this data is going to be found in this transformations bar up at the top here. So you'll see from dataset pre-processing, channel pre-processing, channels, artifact rejection, frequency and component analysis, and segmenting. So all of these, this is where we're going to find each of our steps. Next up, let's say we apply one of these steps. Let's say at some point we want to filter. So we filtered one of these. What we're also going to be using is called a history template. So history templates here are just steps of pre-processing data that we can then move over and apply to each of our participants so that we can save time in that we don't have to go through each participant and themselves and apply each of these steps. We can just have a root history file, history template that we can put all of our pre-processing steps into, and then we can carry that over to each of these individual participants later. Awesome. So now we know where our raw data is, how to create a workspace, how to make sure this is in fact our data, where the transformations are going to be found, and where the history template that we're going to be using later is found. And then you should be able to move your way around. Feel free to get comfortable with some of these different options. You can change what color your display is if you're really into that. And next video we'll be going over some of the first pre-processing steps we'll want to apply.